benefits and use cases of emerging tech for sports and esports.
Yeah, okay, welcome everyone. So now we're going to talk about tech and esports, and I've got an absolutely fabulous panel who I can tell are going to be very lively. I only need to look at them to know they're going to be lively. And let's start by asking them each to introduce themselves and talk about what they're doing, and then we'll get right down to understanding how tech and esports interact, what are the risks, what are the benefits, what are the opportunities. So let's start here.
Hi, I'm Joebert. I'm the general manager for the Cebu National Esports team. Basically, I work with an entire team to make sure that we create campaigns and qualifiers so that we have the best esports athletes to represent the Philippines in the international stage.
Fabulous, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tryke Gutierrez, the CEO of Tier 1 Entertainment and Blacklist International. So if you guys are not familiar with the esports team, Blacklist, we're actually the #3 most watched esports team in the world. We also participated in the Esports World Cup last year, which you mentioned, in one of your talks. And I think for us, the difference in our angle was when we started out the company, we created an influencer network and an agency on top of the esports team. So I guess that's what Tier 1 is, and happy to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. That's interesting, an influencer network on top of the esports team. We'll come back and talk some more about that. Kirill.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kirill. I'm from BETBY. We're a B2B sportsbook provider, and I am the head of Sportsbook product. I'm responsible for everything what we launched in this term of Sportsbook in our platform.
Thanks, Kirill.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Joebert. So I'm the Secretary General of the Philippine Esports Organization. So I work with Job also. Job handles manages the national esports team. I'm more of an international relationship. I also work with the Asian Esports Federation, which is recognized by the Olympic Council of Asia. And privately, I organize gaming conventions here in the Philippines. So one of the events I used to organize is one of the largest gaming convention when it comes to Web 2 in not only Philippines but in Southeast Asia. Currently still doing it.
Oh, thank you very much. Really looking forward to this discussion. Now let's just get started. Obviously, esports is a new thing. There's a bunch of different technologies and approaches like yours creating the influencer network on top of it. Just let's ask each one of you, which are the technologies or the use of technologies that you think are really changing the face and are the opportunity for esport? So let's start with you, Jab.
I think one of the interesting things that we are looking at right now is the AI technology. So basically, it creates an opportunity for us to have or to be able to analyze huge amounts of data that we can use to see if we have better ways of improving players or identifying potential players and all that. So I think that's one of the things that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, okay, so AI is back again. How about you?
For me, the way I see it is, obviously you have your AI and your Web3, and I think that's something that is exciting, but at the same time, for me, the change in formats in the different social media platforms, I think is key, because at the end of the day, esports is marketing, right? So being able to create, new types of content formats across the different distribution in terms of social media platforms, I think is an interesting development, because, I think in the past 2 years, the user consumption has changed from live streaming to eventually short form content because of TikTok Reels and all of these other content formats that the new social media platforms are coming out with, right? So I think for me, that's kind of how I see technology really changing the way esports teams are marketing right now.
So talk a little bit more about that, because I think people would be really interested to understand the way fan engagement is changing, how you're building your communities, what are the different platforms that you're using. We had key opinion leaders on before talking about how they were doing it. But yeah, just give us a little bit more information on what you think are the key trends in terms of esports marketing and building communities and building that fan base.
I think at the end of the day, it's always about storytelling, right? But you also have to adjust to the natural content format that people are consuming nowadays. If you think about it, around 2017 to 2019, it was the boom of live streaming and broadcast of esports, and you see a lot of live streamers like Ninja and the rest really came to stardom, right? However, like nowadays, I think with the advent of TikTok, the consumption has truly changed from supposedly like long form formats from YouTube and obviously like live stream to now like a 16-second to a 30-seconder video. And sometimes the problem nowadays is we were so much, like we were so used to the concept of an introduction, body and end in any type of like a content format. But nowadays, like the introduction is out of the window. You go straight to the body and to the end, right? So I think the way I see it is we need to be able to learn as an institution, whether it's a team or it's a company, to be able to create content formats that are very different from how we were doing it before. I'm sure it's very difficult, but I think at the end of the day, it's all about substance and entertainment.
So short stories with no introduction, that's the way we do it.
Yeah, I think that's one way to do it now.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's just straight to body and the end. No more introductions.
That's fascinating. So, Kirill, we're just staying on the topic of which are the key technologies that you think are the game changers for esports. So, what would you say?
AI, definitely. So we started to invest in AI a few years ago, and we already see good results, actually. If we talk about esports...
Could you put your mic closer
okay,
here?
sorry. If we talk about esports, we start using AI by our betting tips. So if you're familiar with sports betting, so it's an important feature for now. And for example, for CS2, I know everyone knows what is it. It's a game title, right? We start using AI by betting tips. We thought it's a good idea to involve new users in sports betting. I mean, esports betting, right? But esports players are different. They think differently. They need more information. They need short information. And AI helps us, actually. We start using internal information about user behavior and external information about some statistics. Like, we found information in ashildv.com. Everyone knows this website, right? And as a result, we have excellent betting tips, which provide information about Team A playing versus Team B better on this particular map, on this particular site, T site, for example. But our users think Team B win because, I don't know, because. So it's one sentence, and we provide at least 4K facts for users. And as a result, we see an increase of average bets for new user on, we can say, 80%. Every new users who use our betting tips start betting more and more. So it's a great results for us, and our next step in the term of betting tips is definitely increase our coverage. We start building it for Dota 2, for Mobile Legends, League of Legends. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least.
For me, it's more of, in terms of general, the technology itself, it's more of acceptance. So before, esport is kind of like a niche market. It's a niche where not a lot of people, or at least in the general market, and especially in Philippines, is not accepted. But ever since with this, before PC and then mobile, ever since esport was included in such events like the Southeast Asian Games, and then last 2 years ago in the Hangzhou Asian Games, where esport was accepted as a medal sport, and then in 2027 you have the Olympic Esports Games happening. For me, that's where technology, in terms of general, where people get to learn more about esports, get to learn more about, okay, so this isn't just an addictive or something. Now it's more of accepting, and a lot of people already done it. And in terms of events, which I do, right? We do events where gaming conventions or esport events. Lots of people are still going to this kind of events because they want to see and experience it live. So that's where I see in terms of technology, where it's used to the esports side, and a lot of people are getting to accept it more for that.
So let me ask you, we had a former undersecretary here before talking about seeing gaming as a really important economic development opportunity for the Philippines. And we heard in another panel that there's a tremendous amount of talent here that could be occupied in this new sector. So sorry, Kirill, you'll have to not answer this question unless you've got a thought. But just for the Filipinos on the panel, talk to me about how you think that you could build this big gaming economic opportunity in the Philippines, and what will you need to do to make it happen, just from your perspective?
I think the biggest thing about the opportunity is the access. So in terms of, let's say, gaming, the advent of better smartphones, gaming platforms on smartphones, mobile, it gives everybody an easier access for gaming. And one thing that it provides Filipinos is the opportunity to participate. So not a lot of the physical aspects or limitations are there. Let's say, for example, if somebody wants to get into basketball, when you're a Filipino, basically you're genetically at a disadvantage because of that, right? So we're not all as big as JD Dillinger and all that stuff. So, but in gaming, in esports at least, everybody has the same access. We don't necessarily have all of the same smartphones, but we generally have a level playing field in terms of how we play it. So it provides all of the Filipinos, better opportunities to participate at least. And then with all of that, that's where talent comes in. So there's a big opportunity for everybody to participate and make sure that they have access to all of the opportunities and advantages of, being in the gaming industry. And I think from there, it just keeps on going because of all of the successes that we have. So like in 2019, there has been a long stigma of esports and video games being really bad for you in terms of, let's say, in education, in all your daily life. You're basically, old people would say that you're wasting your life if you're playing video games all day. But since, let's say, for example, a big shift of that is last 2019 when we had esports as a medal event in SEA Games. So the first ever esports gold medalists for SEA Games were Filipinos. And then the mindset started to shift. Opportunities, more on financial and all that stuff started to come in. Imagine you brought glory to your country by playing a video game, where people used to see that as a negative when you do that. So now it's changing because parents understand the opportunity, financial or otherwise, it's all there. And the leagues that are being created in the Philippines also and around the world are providing different opportunities for Filipinos. One of the things that we've been seeing is that we have a lot of talent here, but in terms of opportunity, not a lot here. So we're starting to see a lot of great talent being exported around the world. So there are a lot of Filipinos playing for different teams around the world. So opportunities there, and I think the momentum will just keep on going.
But can I just ask a question on that? Because one of the things that I often think about with the digital world is traditionally Philippines are overseas migrant workers, right? But if you're working in the technological field in digital, when you say they're exported, does that mean they physically go somewhere else or they're playing for other teams digitally?
Yeah, they
still go.
Yeah, they physically go to other countries to play for those teams. So they have to be physically there because league regulations or the tournaments that they have to play in would require them to be physically there. So they are basically OFWs in a sense that they play for other teams.
Oh, that's a disappointment to me. I thought we were solving that problem. But never mind. Moving on, Tryke. What are your thoughts about building this as an opportunity for the Philippines?
Yeah, I mean, I personally always believed in it. Obviously, like most of my career, I've been in the gaming space because of what I see in terms of the future of what it can be, right? I think culturally speaking, Filipinos are naturally playful. And that's why I think 3 out of 4 Filipinos now are gamers. On top of that, I'm not sure if everybody here was already born during the SMS era. But like I think we were like the texting capital of the world also, right? So I think the way Filipinos are, we're very digital savvy. We are also very playful and we play a lot of like things online. And I think those kind of like natural behavior in terms of our culture plays a big part of like this becoming as part of our cultural fiber. And I feel like gaming is here to stay for the Philippines. And just like what Job said, right? Like I think in terms of potentially competing against the best in the world, we're up there, right? In one of the bigger tournaments in esports, which is Dota 2, I believe like we are the second most, we have the second most players in terms of that whole game, only next to China. So I think that speaks a lot about our capability to compete. But I think more than that, what the country really needs, I feel like, is an access to capital, because there's a lot of like institutions that want to really like create opportunities for different people in the space here in the Philippines, but access to capital doesn't come easy in the Philippines. So I think that's kind of like one of the challenges.
Thank you. Jab. No, Leo, you said it's...
Yes.
Jabba.
Sorry, got the names scrambled. But actually, in terms of access, as Jab mentioned, but for me, it's more of access by the publishers. Technically, game publishers such as Moonton, Tencent, they promote their games here, and because of that, we have. I mean, Philippines is one of the top two, besides Indonesia, in terms of their game, Mobile Legends, and another game called Honor of Kings, which is now becoming becoming popular. So for me, in terms of access by the publishers, in order for them to have their game here, that's where I see I'm hoping to have some kind of, because without the game publishers, without the game companies, we wouldn't have any kind of, let's say, grassroots or at least find the next big player from the Philippines. So I'm hoping that there will be more game companies that they can see the Philippines as a good potential market for them, and then for us to help them build their if ever their careers, if ever in this gaming industry, esports industry.
So thank you. And Kirill, you were talking about how you use AI to give people tips and how to bet better, and this has resulted in them increasing the amount that they're betting early and so forth. But one of the challenges, I think, for all of esports is how you keep your players on your platform, or and so I'd like to go to all of you and say, what are the tips for people about how you keep your platform alive, how you keep your players there supporting your team? What do you offer them? Are there any tech tips that you can offer to other people? So, Kirill, let's start with you. How do you keep people coming back?
Okay. Let's say we create something really new using by AI. So, but before I start, I should explain a little bit more how it actually appeared. It was 5 years ago. I work in CS market on previous company. And 5 years ago, as you remember, COVID hit. And it was a natural disaster for betting industry. I'm sure everyone knows what is it. And naturally, there is zero event. And some operators, B2C, B2B, start trading some virtual events or something. But we thought a good idea to create something not relevant to, not related to real sports. And I thought, what if we allowed as a user bet on Instagram likes or YouTube video views or something like this. We start trading manually this stuff, but to be honest, it was super low quality, and I forget about this for 5 years. And 5 years later, when I discuss what we can do using by AI with our AI guys, I thought, it's a great idea to took AI tools and create something based on some series for YouTube show or something. And our AI guys create the script. It's not a script actually, it's a system using AI agents. So we create 100 AI agents. They search in the internet and collect all information by one topic. For example, let's say Rick and Morty season 8. It's going to be published soon, and a lot of information, a lot of rumors. So, okay, our AI agents searching information. The next step is another 10 AI agents try to predict what is going on based on all rumors, all theories, etc. And the final stage, we have a list with markets and outcomes, possible outcomes. So, if our operator come to us and ask, hey, BETBY, can you provide odds for example, I don't know, Big Brother in Brazil, it's a TV show, or I don't know, some election in Uruguay, I don't know. And we can do it easily using our script, using our AI agents, and we don't need to check all serious before. We just need to run the script, and we already have markets, we already have outcomes. So our next step for this is make everything automatically. So for now, we should publish these markets manually, but we're working on automatically published markets. That's how we want to attract our users, how we want to keep our user on our platform. Yeah.
Thank you. So AI and AI agents. Olga, can I just check with you when this panel ends? Because I think the clock's wrong. No, it says we've still got 20 minutes, but I feel like we don't.
I would say 10-ish. We should
Okay.
be done by 4 o'clock. So
Yeah, I know, so I was just
you can
checking.
have the whole
clock seems
19
to
if
be
you like.
giving us more time than we... Anyway, so let's get back, though, to how do we keep people on your platform, supporting your teams, being loyal and engaging? So maybe we'll go to Joebert over there. No, he never knows his name, or I don't know his name. I'm not sure which one.
Actually, yeah. So on our end, when we do events, we try to, I mean, in terms of how to get more consumers to go to our event is, of course, we try to give some sort of features or bonuses and such. But the idea is to have them a good content in terms of having them to join, and at least give them some sort of wanting of or any kind of content that they are really interested to go. So we did that in our last event where we had several guests in terms of instead of getting the industry to invite them, and we have international game companies also to join in. That's how, at least on our end, for them to go to, I mean, for our activities, such.
Okay, so Tryke.
So I guess for us, when we started out the company around 2017, the thinking was to be able to follow like the whole K-pop model and to be able to unleash stars, right? And I think one thing that we learned operating Blacklist International over the past years was that you need to be able to create a sense of belongingness if you're a fan, right? So one thing that we did was we called the fans Blacklist agents, just the way like in K-pop, you know, like obviously there are names for like fandoms. I think that's just the first piece. And on top of that, I think it's very important to make the experience really engaging in terms of sharing them stories that they wouldn't even know if it's just like the stories within the boot camp or like behind the scenes or like the things that are happening beyond the games. Like I think those are very important things because I follow sports a lot from the NBA to NFL. I feel like people will always resonate to the players because of the plays in the games, but they'll learn to love them more once they understand who they are as a person, how they, you know, like grieve in losses, how they celebrate the wins, and I think those are very important factors. One thing that I think Blacklist International was able to build as well was that we are able to highlight, obviously, like what the players are about and what the org is really trying to look to support and do outside of the game. So I think that's very important. And last but not the least, being able to create obviously a certain exclusivity in terms of your merch or your items that you produce for the team, because wearing that obviously like puts a pride in them, and I think those are very important things too.
So it's kind of like reality TV for esports. Yeah.
Yes.
The backstories, the real personal stories. Yeah. How interesting. And how about you? What do you think? How are you going to keep people engaged?
Well, for us, one of the things, or at least advantage for the Civil national team is that Filipinos are very nationalistic. So just slapping the Philippine team on our team name automatically gives us support, right? So one of the things that we enjoy is that, you know, people just already are fans just because we are the national Filipino team. And then what we do to make sure that we retain that and gives that momentum is that, like with what Tryke said, is that we create stories around winning. We create stories of the athletes. Even when we lose, we create stories around the losing part. So that our fans can continually be engaged and they feel a sense or they can relate to it because being the Filipino team, somebody somewhere out there in the Philippines would relate to the struggles of the Filipino athlete that we send out. Of course, we also have merchandise also, so that they have a physical connection to our merchandise, like the uniforms. We sell those, so we keep them engaged in that way, and we hopefully we can keep that fandom going for our Filipino team.
Oh, thank you. And is anyone using Web3 tokens, NFTs, or anything for their fan engagement of the panel?
Before we tried getting into it, but obviously like the perception of NFT nowadays is very different. I think putting up a utility for your fandom is key when you do that. I do think that the future of NFTs are very important for the esports ecosystem just because digital ownership is going to be something that we need perpetually, obviously because people are online, right? However, we're very, very careful in terms of like the optics and the politics of how it's going to be perceived by the fans. So like right now, we're like just being careful about how we deal with NFTs. But I do think that once the perception and the education is out there in terms of what it really is, which is digital ownership, right? Being able to own something online, and eventually maybe it's an ownership of the team, maybe we could, like revisit it again.
Yeah, NFT's got a bad name because we're really talking about the digital property rights, yeah? You wanted to say something. I've now figured out you're sitting in the wrong chair. Okay, Joebert.
Actually, we had several companies that exhibit in our events into Web3. Although, as I agree with Tryke, the acceptance is not yet there. Or maybe it's because the way that because most of the events that we organize are based in Web 2. But we also they want to exhibit, they want to showcase their games or products, even though they're Web 3. But we have several companies exhibit, and they are on some of them already established, some of them they're their trial stage, and some of them are having their game into esports, so they are delving into that. I had this one conversation before where a game company was trying to check if they can be considered an esport for such events such as the Southeast Asian Games. And maybe that's the future step. Because, right now, we have a lot of Web3 companies delving right now. Some of them are successful, some of them are not. But it's a trial and error stage. So I'm sure in the future we'll see one major successful esport title in the Web3, and that can start a whole lot of success stories for more Web3.
One thing I would want to share. So I was in one of our investor conferences in New York, and one of the developers there was actually like a super OG developer. And one thing that he said about NFTs was that there's a world there's a possible world where in one RPG game, you can keep your character. For example, if you have a character there that's a level 80 character, you can eventually transfer to another game, keeping a certain level of like wealth and level, and then still, transfer over that ownership in game A to game B to game C to game D. So maybe that's the future of like games where you will have to grind out on a single game. And right now, like all of those times and hours are just wasted, right? But maybe there's a future where you can kind of like transfer that character into another game.
That's the holy grail. So we're going to start, but you started this. So you said it's all TikTok, short form entertainment with no beginning. So your challenge now is each of you, in 60 seconds or less, with no beginning, are going to predict what's the future of esports. So what's the face of esports in 2030? 60 seconds, no beginning. And because you started it, you can be the one who starts off.
I think esports is the future of sports. I truly believe that just because Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are now consuming more video games than sports. And, for whatever platform it is and whatever competition it is, I'm sure that the technologies that are going to be available during that time are going to be digital and are going to be super different from what we have today. Maybe it's the, brain,
Computer interfaces.
that you have. But yeah, I think we can't ever predict it, especially with the advent of AI, but I think it's going to be a very interesting future.
Okay, bang, Jeb.
Okay, nobody in the world right now is being born without esports being an actual sport. So in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be the norm in terms of sports entertainment because of everybody has access. There's no physical limitation. Everybody can participate, or at least have a have a skin in the game, or at least understand how to play. So I think it will be the future also.
Thank you. Kirill?
Yeah, I think the next 5 years, a border between esports and sport is disappeared because esports become more and more must-have for everyone in the term of sportsbook, right? And also AI. I think the next 5 years, modern sportsbook should be looks like fully AI automatization and recommendation system based on your behavior, based on your pattern, etc. So yeah, something like this.
Thank you. Joebert?
Two things. One is actually it's going to be on 2027, but by come 2030, we'll have more discussion about esports and Olympics. That's one. Number two, and this is what I hope. I hope in 2030 SiGMA Asia, I'll be able to see a lot of esports for some of the betting sites here. We'll have esports titles being showcased. Besides the slot machine, the blackjack, I'll be able to hope to see by that time where esports will be the one that's gonna take over and at least all of this betting. And if ever, like for example, if common discussion for NBA, for boxing, maybe esports can be the one you'll see in Las Vegas where betting sites. That's the number one if ever come true.
Oh, fantastic. So SiGMA can take note of that and AIBC, and we'll see that at a future conference. And so all these technologies, AI is changing the face of it, popularity is changing the face of it, the way you engage with your fans is really changing, and think about that. This is here to stay. It's a growing opportunity. It's an opportunity for emerging markets, and it's a very exciting space. So I'd love to thank this incredible panel. Please put your hands together and thank them for sharing their knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.